Hey guys, it's Liam here. It's really great to share another one of these devotions with you this morning. I'm going to start off by asking you a question. What do you need most right now? What do you need most? Maybe you feel like it's patience. How can you look after and love and care for those around you at this time? Maybe it's joy. You're just finding that lockdown life is just sapping your energy. You need that spark of joy again. And maybe it's peace. You're facing a lot of conflict at the moment, or life just is full of ups and downs like a roller coaster, and you want that calmness and stillness that peace brings. I'm sure many of you may have answered with wanting wisdom. Maybe you feel a little bit cut adrift at the moment. You're not really too sure where you're going. Or perhaps, you face a lot of uncertainty in your life. Maybe it's to do with your job or the future, and you want that clarity that wisdom brings. Well, the book of James gives some really helpful ideas about this. James is writing to a whole bunch of Christians who are facing lots of trials and going through some really tough things. And James is writing saying, come on guys, keep going, persevere. He wants to encourage them. And he says to them in chapter 1, verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God. I'm sure we can all relate to that idea that if you face some really tough times, there's always that sense of disorientation and lostness to them. We will often have a lot of confusion. That often seems to happen when we're going through difficult things. Well, James says to them, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God. Maybe that describes you right now, that you face difficult times and you need that wisdom. Well, the passage is really encouraging to us. You should ask God. And the great news is that we can come to Him for help. God doesn't just say to us, well, you're on your own now. You're going to have to work it out for yourself. And we don't have to try and prove ourselves to God. No, it's right and good as Christians that we recognize that we need help. We can't do it all by ourselves, but we need to come to God for it. And the key to understanding this is knowing that God is our Heavenly Father. He's ready to help His children like us, and He loves to do so. He doesn't do it reluctantly, saying, oh, here we go again. You got yourself in a mess and you're going to need me to help you out. He's not reluctant to give help. He's not stingy about it. Now, verse 5 says He gives generously to all without finding fault. He's a generous God who longs to help us because of His love and His compassion to us. However, these verses do come with a bit of a warning though as well. Verse 6 says, but when you do ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. Now, I don't know what you first thought of when you saw the word doubt, but it doesn't quite mean how we may first think of it. We may have this idea in our heads of having to have absolute 100% belief. And if we don't have that, well, then this wisdom is cut off from us. We don't have access to it. Because I'm sure if you've been a Christian for years and years, or whether you've even just been a Christian for weeks or for days, we all have those spiritual questions that we ask. We always have those times when we're just struggling to get our heads around something and struggling to understand. And that's completely okay, because that's not what James means by this word doubt. But what he does mean is this idea of being double-minded, like it says in verse 9. Basically, that describes someone who's hedging their bets. They come before God in prayer and asking for wisdom. But at the same time, they're looking around them, looking for other options, trying to create a backup plan. And really, a person that does that is insincere. They come before God, but really they don't, trust Him. They're just trying to get what they can from Him. A person like that is like a wave being blown and tossed by the sea, going in lots of different directions, but never really going anywhere at all. It's this idea of, like in a cartoon, when a character might be standing on a block of ice and a crack goes down in between their legs, and all of a sudden the piece of ice are moving further and further apart, And the person is being pulled in these different directions. They're doing the splits until eventually, push, they fall down. It's this idea of being unstable, being pulled in different directions. So let me encourage you that if we truly and sincerely seek God's wisdom, then He will grant it to us. He will give us wisdom. Now, it may not be like an epiphany where all of a sudden everything makes sense and we know exactly what we need to do. Maybe at first we don't feel much the wiser. However, we know that God is generous and is good. He's faithful, and He will provide that wisdom. He will start to guide our paths, or He will start to help us with maybe the decisions that we face, because He's our Heavenly Father. He longs to do so. So as I finish, let me encourage you, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God. Ask God, knowing that He is our good and Heavenly Father, who longs to hear from us and longs to grant us wisdom. Have a great day, City Church.